Hey guys, it's Pranav with BoomSDR. Welcome to the video. Pleasure to have you guys aboard today. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about probably one of the toughest things SDRs face when they're making calls, and that's getting past the gatekeeper. Typically, they don't know how to navigate those waters, and it always ends up in a dead end. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again without expecting different results. So I'm going to show you some new tactics on how to handle these conversations with the gatekeeper in 5 steps, and also lay out a game plan that you can use when you're approaching a prospect that has a gatekeeper in place. But before we get into that, 2 favors. If you do enjoy the video, please hit subscribe or like. And second, if there's anything I missed or if you have any other great ideas on how SDRs can get by gatekeepers, please leave a comment below. Would love to continue the conversation and generate some more ideas that help the community. All right, so getting past the gatekeeper in 5 steps. The first step, first and foremost, is going to be to empathize with the gatekeeper. They aren't being mean for the sake of being mean. They're just doing their job. Like if you were to take a walk in their shoes or walk 1,000 miles in their shoes, like imagine it. Their boss is either a C-level executive or a VP director that gets dozens and dozens of calls and emails from other SDRs just like you every single day. So imagine the volume that all that noise that volume creates, and ultimately their primary responsibility is to help make the life or the job of their boss more streamlined, right? And cutting through that noise and filtering through all that noise so that they're only having the most valuable content getting in front of them is one of their primary responsibilities. So, they're not being mean just for the sake of being mean. They're ultimately doing their job just like you're doing your job. So realize that they're a human being and just try to kind of understand where they're coming from. And that's going to easily, help you have better conversations with these gatekeepers. And ultimately, these gatekeepers are going to help you because you're actually treating them with respect, like which most SDRs that I've heard, a lot of SDRs, not all of them, not the good ones, but a lot of SDRs don't treat them. They treat them like a barrier, and ultimately that's not going to be helpful for either party. So what can we do? Ultimately you can change that perspective, and then once you've actually changed your perspective and you realize they're human beings, what can you do then? Well, step 2 is to just realize what other SDRs sound like. Again, I mentioned the fact that if you're in a crowded space, you can pretty much assume that your competitors are calling the same companies and the same prospects that you are. So you can assume that for that one prospect, every single day, you can have 5, 6, 10, 20 other vendors that have SDRs calling into that same prospect. So this is what the majority of SDRs sound like. Hi, my name is Pranav. I'm calling with BoomSDR. Is Jane available? Nah, she's in a meeting. Just send me an email with some content about what you guys do. Okay, thank you. What's a good email? Boom, that's it. It's super robotic. It's super scripted. And you're not really developing any sort of conversation with the person. And ultimately, that's where I've seen a lot of people fail, is simply the fact that they don't treat the gatekeeper as someone that can provide them with valuable information into not only what the company is doing when it comes to their software, when the timing is right, what their buying cycle looks like, what their budget is going to be, to even when their boss is available for a conversation. So, gatekeepers have the inside scoop on the company you're prospecting and the person you're prospecting. So always remember that it's more of a conversation than you take at first glance. So if all SDRs sound like that, what do we do differently? Well, I've had probably one of my best openings, or one that's worked really well, is actually some self-deprecating humor. Hey Stephanie, it's Pranav with BoomSDR again. We actually spoke last week. Probably don't remember, I'm a pretty forgettable guy, but I was wondering if Jane was available. Ha ha ha, he. It's gonna at least open up, and ultimately this kind of opening, and don't mean you have to use this exact same one. I know I wrote this fairly quickly, but something like this as a conversation starter does a few things. Humor, first and foremost. Everybody likes to laugh. If you can make a gatekeeper laugh, it automatically removes all that tension that they have. That wall that they have built up, that comes down in a second, and it brings your personality to the conversation. Second, it references the fact that you've spoken before. If when you're calling the same gatekeeper week after week with the exact same conversation, that is boring, not only for them, but for you. Why do that to yourself? You're not having fun with the job, and making calls at a high volume is a really tough job. So always have fun when you're on these calls, and it's going to make your life a lot better. You're going to enjoy these conversations a lot more, and ultimately it's going to make you a better salesperson and SDR first and foremost. So, and then third, even if they don't remember you, it shows you remember them. Who doesn't like being remembered? If you can, take it to the next level, drop a little tidbit from last week when they shared something about their week or what their boss was up to. If you can reference, and this comes with taking stellar notes in your CRM, but if you can reference a previous conversation and they actually remember it, boom, instantly, hundreds of brownie points. It's going to set you apart from all of those other SDRs that are calling them. So now that we've kind of accomplished these three things with the opening, when do we actually go for the ask? Ultimately, this is kind of the framework that I use. Again, hey Stephanie, it's Pranav with BoomSDR. We spoke last week. I probably don't remember though. I am a pretty forgettable guy. Ha ha ha. Back and forth. Stephanie, to get to it, I know you said Jane is pretty busy, but I've honestly tried calling you a few times now. So just be honest with me. Am I ever gonna get through to her? Like, while I do love our chats, I just hate to keep pestering you. What's my shot, Stephanie? Boom, there you go. You've built up this rapport with them, and then ultimately you brought down that wall. You've built trust to an extent that you're not like every other salesperson. You're treating them like a real human being. You're showing them respect for the fact that you empathize with the fact what their job responsibilities are. And they don't get that a lot. Most gatekeepers don't get that. So when you do approach it in that way, you're going to get a few different responses, or at least a few different pats. You've kind of laid down the hammer here, and maybe not the hammer, that might be a bad analogy, but you've essentially showed your hand. This is what I'm trying to do. Be honest with me. What can I do here? Like, please help me out. And that's step 4. Get next steps by asking for help. You might get a few different responses here. Ultimately, the first one we can hope for, if you are calling into the C-suite, this is probably the best avenue to take. And simply because there's a number of other people below your prospect that you could potentially have a productive conversation with. So one response might be, honestly, Jane will never take a cold call. You might try Adam though. He works for Jane, handles XYZ initiatives. Do you need his extension by chance? And even if they don't provide you with that exact same response, like let's say they don't offer up the extension, you can always ask for it. Oh, great. Adam sounds like he'd be a perfect person to speak with. Stephanie, do you mind giving me his extension by chance? I don't really want to go through the directory again, you know what I mean? Ask for it. At this point, you've brought down all their walls. They're here to help you because A, they have a relationship with you now, and B, they realize that this is not going anywhere. So at least we'll end these, the back and forth, and at least they'll help you out a little bit. Another option that you might get, or I hear frequently, is a better time. And this is not always 100% guaranteed, but this is pretty good. If someone offers you up this, Pranav, she has a break this afternoon at 3 p.m. It looks like, I have her calendar open in front of me. If you call back at 3 p.m., I'll try to get you on the phone with her. It's probably going to be your best shot. Oh, great, Stephanie. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll try calling back at 3. Is there any other times if I can't make 3, if something comes up, unfortunately, is there a better time to call back tomorrow or next week? When's there kind of a break in her calendar again? If she only has 10 minutes, I don't want to take up those 10 minutes. I'd rather let her have that. But, again, empathy. You're empathizing. You can at least ask when's your best shot? Can you help me out, Stephanie? Hook me up here. When's a good time to call? I called at 11 a.m. I've called at 3 p.m. I've called at 1 p.m. Hopefully you're not calling at 1 a.m. But ultimately, you can at least narrow down the range for when to make your next follow-up call. And then the third option that I typically get is, nope, this ain't happening. Jane is, our chief financial officer. She is not going to take your call no matter what. Good luck. If that happens, ultimately, you can then go back to asking for a referral, going downstream. seeing if there's anybody that reports to Jane that you can get help from. And if it's not going to work, then you can cut Jane out. And then with account-based marketing, obviously, if this is a big enough enterprise, you can probably go out to one of your databases or your CRM and find other individuals, even LinkedIn, and find other individuals that might be a little bit easier to get in touch with and get on the phone with. All right, so you've done all this. You've opened up the gatekeeper. You've brought down the wall. You still haven't talked to the prospect at this point. This is all about the gatekeeper. So one last-ditch effort I like to do myself and have my team do is step 5. This is the secret sauce. This subject line has by far one of the highest open rates that I've experienced when you're selling into C-suite or VPs or higher level executives. And that subject line is spoke to Stephanie, spoke to your gatekeeper. And the beauty of this is simply because what boss doesn't want to know what conversation their direct report is having with a vendor? Why would you not want to know that? That immediately sparks some interest in opening up that email. So at least you're getting an open. And from there, tailor the response to what you've learned. Because ultimately, throughout this entire process, Stephanie, our fake gatekeeper, is helping us out. She's providing us with information as to Jane's schedule, what's top of mind for her. So tailor it to her. Share, and this is not a highly tailored email, but one I've just used in the past with success is, hey, Stephanie shared your calendar is packed this week. But the reason I was actually calling was I just thought that when I took a look at your LinkedIn profile, it seems like we have a few customers that overlap with your organization. They look fairly similar to yours. Actually, a specific customer success story came to mind, and I thought you might be interested in learning more about it. Curious, would it be a valuable use of 20 minutes to learn how we've helped customer X in your industry accomplish ABC or pain point 1, 2, 3? If so, how does Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern sound? Boom, short, sweet, to the point. If you get that pain point correctly, and if you resonate, if you do have customers that are fairly similar, it's going to resonate. And it's going to show that you did your research, you've spent time gathering information, and that you're truly trying to help. And this is probably one of the most frequent responses to a last-ditch effort email that I've ever gotten. All right, well, that's it, guys. I know quite a long video for today, but that's kind of the 5-step game plan for getting past gatekeepers, and works fairly often since ultimately you're getting multiple entry points. You're gathering a lot of information, which is going to help the AE that you set that demo for. They can tailor that conversation to that specific organization, the pain points that you've learned about. So highly recommend trying this out. Again, it all starts with empathy. Truly empathize with your customer. Figure out a way to understand what they're looking for, and that's going to automatically make you separate yourself from all the other vendors and all the other SDRs that are calling into that organization. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for watching. Again, BoomSDR, one of our top priorities is that you always remember growth is the priority. A lot of SDRs, the best SDRs, they're constantly learning, they're constantly growing, and constantly learning about not only the process and the approach that they need to take to setting appointments, but also what is the emotions that you're invoking and what is the psychological triggers that you're trying to hit. And that all comes from reading and learning. So just like you've watched this video, these are a few books that have kind of helped me getting past gatekeepers and perfecting that process around reaching the ultimate buyer. So I'll drop a few links below as to a few books that have helped me with this specific problem. And again, visit BoomSDR.com. Tons of great resources that we've created. And again, if you did like the content or the video and the articles that you see, please hit like or subscribe. It always helps us know that the content that we're creating is actually helping others in our community. Great. Well, thank you guys again for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.